Welcome back. So after 30 matches, there were winners and, of course, there were big-time losers. Let's quickly check in. Of course, this is the Premier Soccer League. Firstly, let's look at the top half of the standings where Sundowns, well, they reign supreme yet again as far as that standings. I think they were, 70 points? I'm going to bring up that graphic shortly in as far as that's concerned. At the bottom half, Marumo Gallants also, they saw their way home. In fact, I was speaking to my guest now, Marfa, as well as Khanyiso. So these two teams, well, in fact, these two gentlemen are going to try and dissect and unpack what happened in the log. Let me bring you guys in. Marks, thank you very much for joining us. Marks Go-Man-Go Go, former Kaizer Chiefs legend, former Orlando Pirates legend, Bafana legend. Yes?
Thanks for inviting me, chaps. Are you well?
You're sitting next to another legend, Mark.
I realize that. Can you?
Everything from rugby, cricket, hockey, netball, yekske, SABC commentator. Gentlemen, let's talk about football. As I said, in fact, before our viewers join us right now, we're discussing that Marumo Gallants currently have an awards evening right now, finished the bottom of the log standings. But I guess they already spent the budget. The money has gone, so they have to enjoy it. We'll get to them, Marks. Let's start at the top. Sundowns. What does one say about Sundowns? I think 16 points is what they won by, as far as Orlando Pirates is second.
Yes, they did. Yeah, and also they've won it 7 games before the end. And, I mean, they were just receiving all the guard of honor throughout. I would look forward to such guard of honor.
To say that they're in a league of their own is
an
to be fair. I mean, same league, but they... what is with their dominance? One could... I mean, we know, Khanyiso, when it comes to where this whole story broke about the money that they're buying the league, we've heard coaches speak about that. But you can have as much money as you have, but it's still got to do with the player, Marks. Those players must be hungry to actually go out there and play.
Yeah, in fact, let me touch on that and throw it to Khanyiso, because the interesting thing that I've picked up is that Sundowns have a plan. So when everybody says, no, but Sundowns can buy players, everybody can buy players. But when they buy players, they put them into a system that is rolling. And they know what is expected of them. Not, I've got these new players, now they have to help the team to survive their struggles. It's the other way around. You've got to be part of us to survive, because of where you come from, you don't know what the trophy looks like.
And in fact, to be honest, it's not about literally the men only. Sundowns are dominating the female game as well. So you cannot say that they bought the league, because it's obviously something they're doing right with their development structures or their structures, period.
It goes back to one word: systems. Their systems are in place. And when your systems are not in place, you will never get anything right, because you will always try to find names to make a difference. Names don't make a difference. Names fit into the model that you have already got rolling all the time.
So you must have been bored throughout the season. I mean, some of the names, the Sundowns, you have to call them in and out daily. So-and-so scored a goal. Not again. But again, it's those combinations about what Marfa is saying. At the end of the day, the still is to gel on the field of play. You can have the strongest, whatever you want to call it, if they don't gel and don't perform. And they made it look so easy too, in as far as their competitors were concerned.
Culture is strategy for breakfast. And there has been a consistent culture of success at Sundowns since 2012 when Pitso Mosimane took over. And one would have thought that after dethroning Chiefs, even if Sir Marks did ask, when last has a team competed against Sundowns? It is all that the Chiefs were the one side who mounted a consistent challenge. Even under Steve Compella, Chiefs was that one team that hardly went away. The now defunct Wits hardly went away. There always was one team that will always ask a question of Sundowns. We've got to a point, especially after the 2019-20 season, where Chiefs effectively lost the league in the last 15 minutes. No team has actually stepped up to that mantle. And I think what has been developed, I mean, Sundowns have had money since Patrice Motsepe took over the club in 2003.
And they struggled back then.
Yes, they didn't win the league automatically. They went through a raft of coaches, your Angel Capaz. They brought in a number of players, but still, they didn't quite win the league at that first go. There was a very good Chiefs side that had a very good culture under Ted Dumito at the time that was difficult to dethrone. They only won their first league under the Motsepe era in the 2005-2006 season. They changed coaches again. They won it with Neil Tove and Miguel Gamondi, and then they won it with Corey Nicholson. And then they went the barren spell just after they won the Nedbank Cup in 2008. They brought in players after players, changed coaches. Nothing actually worked at Sundowns until then Pitso came in. Clearly there was a change of culture and a change of thought processes at the top that then allowed for that entire positivity to filter through the system. Because you've seen now that since the 2012-2013 season, Sundowns have not gone the season without winning a trophy. If they didn't win the league, they won a cup competition. If it was in a cup competition, they won the league. If they didn't win the League World Cup competition, they won the Champions League.
Well, they're winning every cup for now. I mean, I think we're going to get to the Champions League because that's another sore point. In fact, Marks, I was just about to say, do you think Sundowns, they wake up after Saturday and say, look, we won the league, but our season's not fulfilled? The league was a given, so to speak, inverted commas. I think for me, the Champions League progressing is what they wanted.
Yeah, the league was a given, and obviously 5 times now you get to keep the trophy, but that was always water under the bridge for them. The key thing was to focus on the Champions League. One would not say they did not focus, but these things happen. I mean, that misfortune that befell Mvala and Sundowns.
Yeah, but the missed opportunities,
Yeah, the missed opportunities, the game is about that. Yeah, if you don't miss them, it means you are not playing well enough. Teams that are relegated are the ones that didn't even miss opportunities. You know? But if you miss opportunities, it means you can play and you are building towards the last third. But the problem is when you are trying too hard and you end up having that blunder that we saw. But it was a blunder if you think of it. Yeah. Call it misfortune, but it was a blunder because the keeper was coming out, Williams, and suddenly Mvala was also eagerly trying to clear, you know, and that was devastating because we were looking for Al-Aqli.
That one I think already, in fact, I'm going to say it. I mean, halfway through the day yesterday, I've already written my script, Sundowns meeting Al-Aqli in the finals, so this is what's going to happen. Then the second goal came, then I had to change. Then the third goal, I'm like, okay, we're back to it, I'm going to change. Then the fourth game. But anyway, we look at these visuals. That team, you can see in training, they're happy campers. There's always laughter, they're smiling. They seem to be enjoying themselves. So that success is there. You can see it, and I think it's going to be tough to break the dominance of Sundowns in a couple of years' time. 42 million rand, I think, is what they've made this year alone. And we were discussing earlier, money is going to people who don't necessarily need it, but they need it because to make sure that those players are happy and to make sure that they continue being hungry, that money must go somewhere. Let's track down a little bit now to somewhere maybe second position. Yes, Pirates are there. But for me, Marks and Khanyiso, is Kaizer Chiefs. I'm a course. I know Mafa. I don't start. I want to let Mafa to breathe. No, we're going through the league.
So I'm looking at him and saying, but can we come from first to fifth?
Yeah, I think we're going down.
We need to give SuperSport the plaudits. I mean,
that's what I wanted to
a lot of people look at Pirates as a most improved team.
Yeah.
When you look at the quality and depth that Pirates has, them finishing second and that far from Sundowns is an indictment of their ability. Remember that they've conceded a league double to Chiefs. A Chiefs team which is probably at its weakest that you've ever seen in the PSL era. They conceded a league double to Sundowns. Those are 12 points against opposition that ordinarily Pirates should be competing well against. So they've done well to get to a position where they have won a cup final. They're competing in another cup final. And you've seen incremental improvement over the season, even though I think consistency has been their problem. But I think you'd feel now, at this point in time, Pirates, with the kind of depth that they have, with the quality of the players that they have, them being a distant second to Sundowns is an indictment on what they have from a playing capability perspective.
Pirates, again, I think one could say, being the caliber of the team they are, that's where you expect them to be, fighting for league honors. SuperSport, again, the academy, they're probably the best academy in the country. You find them everywhere in the country. So they deserve to be number 3. Number 4, number 5. All of a sudden you're thinking, but hold on. There's all of a sudden a Swallows in the top 8. There's a Sekhukhune in your top 8. And they're sitting at 44 points, but then the margin to the top guy is but, a good 30 points. And you say, I don't know, man, I'm not sure. Is this league, what are the other teams doing? Because, Mafa, Chiefs and Pirates have got the money. It's not about the money. These teams are industries. So it's not even about not having money. Where are they getting it wrong in as far as really making a fight for it? Because there's no ways about Chiefs should be fighting for bottom 5. They should be up the top 3. That's who they are.
I mean, I want to agree with you. If you look at it, you can't win, 13 and lose 12 and then draw 7. But you look at other teams like your Sekukunis of this world, you've got 10 wins, 10 draws, 10 losses, anything. Okay, it's 30 games. Where is consistency?
I mean, where do you look? I mean, if you look at that lot, you got Kaizer Chiefs with a goal difference of -1. And this is a top-tier team where we expect our strikers to come from. You got, okay, Sekhukhune -3, Swallows -7. But the indictment on those two from Cape Town City out in Kaizer Chiefs, it shows again maybe the performance of, well, the struggles we've always had, Mapa, up front.
Yeah, struggles we've always had up front. In fact, that one I will dwell into that. But please don't put pressure on Chiefs. Because Chiefs haven't won anything in the last 8 years.
Please say that louder.
Please don't put pressure on Chiefs. Because they haven't won anything in the last 8 years. But because they haven't won anything in the last 8 years, people don't realize, meaning opponents, don't realize that these guys are vulnerable. And they've been vulnerable for the last 8 years. But the only thing is what others said. It says when they play against this batch, they triple their effort. But they don't realize that it is as ordinary as any other team. It's just also up to them to have players that shows a lot of commitment, and you're talking about up front. That is where they are lacking. I mean, I had to watch it like take 2 last night. No, this morning, 2 o'clock. I'm watching this Chiefs against Cape Town City. There was a lot at stake. Don't say there wasn't anything at stake. There was a lot at stake.
Yeah.
But you can share with me where is the logic of on the 35th minute.
Yeah.
The opponents are a man down. And then you go and have an injury to your key player.
Yeah.
And then he comes on, nobody advises him to say, listen, that is a possible... No, that was a possible fracture on the side of the foot. And then he went on and then comes in.
Yeah.
Before you know, Bilal is in and out. And I think, but what is happening?
Yeah, Mapa, hold the thoughts. My director tells me we have to go pay the bills. We'll come back in a couple of seconds, so do stay with us, as Mapa is saying. It's going to be a tough one to dissect. This Kaizer Chiefs, Baba, get better. Stay with us. More to follow shortly after this. Continue our conversation here as we wrap the Premier Soccer League season. Sundowns once again walking away with their 13th league title. Mafa still joins me as well as Khanyiso. Gentlemen, let's continue the conversation. But before we went to the break, let's wrap up the part about Amakosi. Yes, they had difficulties against the big boys. Cape Town City, let's be fair, they're not a walkover team either. So let's give them their plaudits. But the reality is, and as one of our colleagues was saying earlier, Kaizer Chiefs is a big club. Kaizer Chiefs is... In fact, they went as far as saying, I can even ask you this question, that you had more pressure playing for Chiefs than you did for Orlando Pirates because of the magnitude of the club.
Not fans, really. Maybe you could say Vets or Dynamis. There's still pressure at Pirates.
Yeah,
expectations are high.
Yeah, the expectations are high when you don that gold jersey. They fill up a stadium anywhere in the country, okay, except in the FNB Stadium, but that's not the point. That's a big club.
It is, and that is why the other problem that I see is when they try youngsters to save their faces. You don't get youngsters to save your faces. You get youngsters to be the future stars of the team. Now, you've got your Ngobo as an example, and then you've got Shabalala, and you say the chips are down, help us. You can't, because the poor youngster who's got so much talent, you identified him from development to say, you are the future. But the team is not winning. And it just kills his confidence. You look at all the top teams, and maybe not even top teams, the same top guys, the Chiefs. When we got there, I was on the bench for Wagga Wagga. Until there's 1-0, 3-0, and then there's less pressure.
Yeah.
But when you're young and be put on to save the big ship, it's not going to work. You're going to sink with this Titanic. So that is where the problem is. I'm
going to put Khanyiso on the spot here because we have to move down to the second half of the log standings. That man on screen, Atazwane, do you think he keeps his job going into the new season?
He should. He should. It's his first season. He may have lost 12, which is the most defeats conceded by a Chiefs coach in the PSL era, but Again, a coach is only good as what his management allows him to be. We need to be clear about that because there is a lot of conversations about the quality of coach that Arthur Zwane is. It's difficult to judge it over one season. I mean, Marks is very correct to say that the Chiefs jersey is the heaviest football jersey in the country. It's heavier than the Bafana jersey. It's heavier than the Pirates jersey. It's heavier than Sundowns jersey. So you can imagine the kind of pressure that an Arthur Zwane, a former player who succeeded at every level with the club, now
he's won every trophy with Chiefs, hasn't
exactly.
he?
He now needs to be at a level where he now needs to bring back the glory days. There have been a raft of coaches since Stuart Baxter. Stuart Baxter came back for a second tenure. Couldn't produce the magic. And when Stuart Baxter came back, he came back to the very same senior players that he left when he left in his first stint. What is missing at Chiefs, the quality of top management aside, is the middle management, where you've got a set of middle management players who not necessarily are national team quality, but understand the ethos, and I'll go back to this word, the culture, and the excellence of what the club stands for. I mean, you go back to a Thabo Moki. Thabo Moki was never Bafana material, but you knew he was a quintessential Chiefs player. When Thabo Moki played, you always often saw the Chiefs on the winning side. There was a particular aura that Thabo Moki carried. Every team has a player. Isaac Shai, Michael Manzini were those guys for Sundowns. I mean, the late John Muet, he was the kind of player who embodied. You get players who embody a particular club. I don't think Chiefs has a player who's grown through the system, has become a middle management player who embodies. I mean, there's a key question that I think was Velile asked at a press conference, if not informally, was that why is it that Chiefs players who are playing for other clubs, who are national team representatives, then come to Chiefs and then all of a sudden aren't competing for national team jerseys? Yusuf Mart is one. Keegan Dolly is one. So you need to look at, the problem is multi-layered. It doesn't have one singular answer.
Let's move down to the second half of the table, gents. Nobody can beat investment at Kloorkop. We get it. That's fine. We can live with that. The one problem as we look at that, well, the log standing is there. I mean, from there, it's tears, Muff. I mean, look at the difference between number 9 to number 16. Literally what? 7 points? 9 points, literally. Again, all I look at is look at the goal difference. I mean, that for me is a far cry from where we should be as a country, but fine, that's a story for another day. We don't have the strikers. But the reality is, the biggest thing that I probably saw, Muff, on this, all the KZN teams are on this half of the table, and all the KZN teams, at one stage or the other, at the beginning of the season, Richards Bay were fighting at the top. They look like they'll push Sundowns, or they push the big boys for championship.
They were log leaders, by
the way. Maritzburg United at one stage finished second, and as far as the log stands are concerned in the league. Golden Arrows have always been theirs, and that's about their top 8 team. It's Tears Galaxy for me. Possibly, I think Tim Sugas will be happy, but he also believes, he believes is the top 8 contender as far as the squad he has there. What do you make of this half? I mean, we'll discuss Marumo Gallants a bit later, but this half for me is a far cry. Chipper United, well, they're their own worst enemies. Let's talk about maybe Arrows, Galaxy, and Royal AM. What do you make of Mumkeys this season so far? Maybe.
Yeah, in fact, if you think of it, you say they were top, most of these teams. It's normal every season. I wonder if you've noticed, we call it the photo session because they've got to take picture, they're here, they can look for a sponsor, we're top of the law. Thereafter, reality dawns. And this is where it is now, where Arrows also have been very turbulent in terms of performance. But don't only look at them. Look at Mumkeys, as you say, Royal AM. Royal AM had their own internal problems. I mean, you cannot be changing coaches like that, but it's also not to the doing of the management, if you follow what you read.
But if you're paying players million rands on the field in brown paper bags, again, culture,
I think a very important part of the bottom of the table is that of those 8 teams, only 2 retained the coach the entire season, Golden Arrows and TS Galaxy. Every other team will only have a coaching change. Marumo Gallants, Maritzburg United. Let's not even go to Chippa United. Richards Bay. I think the issue with Richards Bay is that they went too hard too early. Remember that the league is a 30-round marathon. They went too hard too early, and then by the time the second round came about, they're absolutely out of steam. But they did well enough in the first set of games to keep themselves alive.
Yeah.
Well, AM had a change of coach. Amazulu had a change of coach.
Yeah. I think
TS
Amazulu had two coaches.
I think of the teams that I think in the bottom half has underperformed is TS Galaxy, because you look at the number of those draws.
Yeah.
You realize that, and you look at they're the only team who have a positive goal difference. That speaks the fact that they actually weren't playing badly.
And that's what I'm saying.
But sometimes they tried to play for the point where there were some games where you felt that they could have gone for the win. I mean, remember that TS Galaxy are one of only two teams that beat Sundowns season.
That's what I was saying. With TS Galaxy, I mean, for me, Tim Sugas must be, yes, happy he's still there. He didn't have to fight somewhere at the bottom, but he is a top 8 side, man.
Yeah, it is a top 8 side. In fact, he also is one of the top 9 group where you don't swap around coaches all the time.
Yeah.
If you look at what is common or uncommon between the top 9 and the bottom 9, you'll realize that it's just the coaches.
Yeah.
You know, to say these guys, almost all of them, have changed coaches. But then you look at a team like Amazulu. They lost Trutan, then he got to Skukuni, and he stayed focused. They gave him all that because
Skukuni, boom.
You are talking about interference, and that interference, when it's not in your face, you can be let do what you best at, coaching, and that's what he's been doing. I mean, suddenly Skukuni is in the top 8.
Yeah.
This is the side that was new last year. Last
Yep.
season,
Yeah.
they were fresh.
I mean, that's what I was saying. Even with Richards Bay, I mean, a team, they came in fire. We expect a lot from them. New owners, they talk the right talk. They started the right way. But the reality is, Mark, then possibly the question I want to ask from you, when you start a season, here's Tabiso. He wants to start a Premier Soccer League club. He wants to be with the big boys. Gone are the days where it's a 23-man job. I've got my 23 or 30 players. It's an investment of a squad of at least 40 players. You have to have at least a team, 2 teams that you at any given time can choose from.
Yeah, 40 if you have a dream. That is if you want to play even in the CAF and you want to win competitions. But when you have that team, you must know firstly it's going to cost you. Secondly, you've got to be professional to match or compete with the best. And the only way to do that is to say, here's a coach, here's the technical staff, work together. I'm not going to interfere, but I will always be aware of what is happening. And with other teams, it looks like there's just interference from time to time. And let's not even touch on the other stories of Marumo, why it's relegated.
We have to go to those 3. In fact, from there, unfortunately, we have to go to the bottom 3 of the standings. Chupa United, Maritzburg United, Marumo Gallants, done and dust, they're relegated. I think their discussion, unfortunately, is a sad one. It is what it is. We discussed that they're having their prize-giving evening tonight. It won't be that bad. 23 million rands they got for next year, so they could keep the same side. I mean, $23,750,000 for come in the semi-finals of Confed, and they should get, what, a couple more millions for next year, the monthly grants. Give them about 24 million to push for.
I remember
push
there was
anyway.
I remember there was a listener who said on one of the Metro FM shows, just the Metro FM sports show, just after when Ajax Cape Town actually lost out on the playoffs. What the NFT Gusehatin? That's not easy to come back from the NFT. You may have the money.
Yeah.
Ask Cape Town Spurs. Well, the successor club to Ajax Cape Town. They are finding it difficult to get back there. Black Leopards, gone. Chakoma Chawavandila, gone.
Yeah.
Chomo Cosmos, gone. There's absolutely no guarantee. You may have the money, but there is a particular brand of football that you need to play in the Motsepe Foundation Championship to find a way back. I mean, Polokwane City, for example, they're very inconsistent. So was Catholic Stars. So was Cape Town Spurs. But they won the games that mattered. They won the games that mattered. Now, you have this pot of gold that you have.
We're going to run out of time, but I want us to carry on.
This pot of gold that you have.
Yeah.
But remember that the pot of gold now needs to cover that financial gap that you're missing out from the PSL grant.
Yeah.
Because getting your grant means, and staying up in the PSL means that you can allocate that particular money to something else.
Eish.
Now, you need to allocate that money to the running of the club.
Yeah.
And remember that PL players still want to play in the TST Premiership.
Yeah.
They don't want to play in the NFT. They want to be seen. They want screen time.
They'll get a chance there, go NetBank. I mean, if they
But there's no guarantee. Remember that you still have to have those teams fighting amongst themselves to get into the NetBank Cup.
Mafa, Maritzburg United survived by the skin of their teeth. A lot of people saying, look, to be honest, they should have the beating of Keswick. They should have the beating of, who are they playing us in the playoff? I think there's two teams. It's Cape Town Spurs. They should have the beating of those two. They've got the quality. But again, this team has also struggled.
They have also struggled, but it has always been so unfortunate or unfair that these PSL teams, they now face this inexperienced sides, and they just brush them aside. You know how often Black Leopards did that. And if you ask me, I'll tell you that Maritzburg United have players that have the quality to bounce back.
Yeah. I mean, the management there said, I mean, obviously, as we see on air, the owners saying, look, they're obviously not happy. They expect much better. Again, Maritzburg United, I mean, Friday night's football were feared in the country. You never wanted to go down to Herikwala.
I think the biggest, where Maritzburg have a big problem, is that they're a victim of their own player success.
Yeah.
Because the moment they have a group of players that plays very well,
all of them
they are sold.
Yeah.
So every other season, they need to start from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that group of Osipesi Ndlovu, Fortune Makaringe, when they actually finished in the top 4.
Mafa says there's a reason.
There's a reason for that. You know, I was fortunate to be contacted by the old man, Farouk, you know, the club boss, and say, here's a situation. And I said, I'll also try to help where possible. They're looking for a sponsor, you know. That
until
this is a
Gift of Givers came in as well.
Yeah,
recently.
they could only, I mean, Gift of the Givers only came in now. These guys have been around, and he's been crying to say, we don't have sponsors. Here's an empty block for advertising.
And it has to go, if somebody's going to come and say, here's 10 million rand for that player, he's going to have to sell.
That is why he sold all those players, Mabwe and many others, to Sundowns. Because at the time when he sold Mabwe and them, that was when he really needed salary to just pay players. And that was when they were hot in the Nedbank Cup and everything.
Hey, Chiefs Yabaz.
Yeah. Tabi, so I just don't want to ignore something because I know you stretch for time. Is that you talked about, look at the log, look at the goals. It's just obviously best testimony to what the league is.
Let's try and put the graphic back on. Which part? The top or the bottom half?
The bottom half.
The bottom half,
yes. In fact, in my opinion, bottom half, but my opinion is overall. But you were talking about goals for and goals against. And you are looking at the log now. You realize that you cannot go out there and have, 30 games and score 27 goals. What is that? 27 goals, your goals are less than the number of games you've played. Let alone your points.
Everything less than the goal game, which is problematic.
It is.
I mean, again, every other season we talk about goal scorers, the Leslie Manyatela.
Let's look at the top half of the standings, if we make colleagues.
While that is happening, I will say also, it now confirms that you find a team like Sundowns scoring 52. That's really scoring goals that are way over your number of games played. But you look at that and ignore it. And you ignore it at your own peril. Because that's the reason why we don't qualify for AFCON, we don't qualify for the World Cup. Because it starts in clubs, in small segments. It starts in the battles. That is why we're not part of the wars. That is exactly where we're going as a country. But where it's still embarrassing, and this is food for thought for everyone here, is how on earth are we saying Marumo Gallants is relegated? But these are the guys that just came knocked out of the semi-finals of an African platform. I mean, what is the standard? No, what is the standard of African Confederation football?
Yes.
That makes you think a team that gets relegated with so many goals.
I asked them actually during one of the press conferences I had. They had at Dawsonville Stadium prior to one of the match, and I asked them, do you want to prioritize? Because at the end of the day, your bread is buttered in the Premier Soccer League, and if you concentrate on African football, when you come back from there, and if you don't win it, you'll come back and you'll find yourself at the bottom of the table, and there say they were. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we've run out of time. So I'm going to give you a minute here. Next season, I mean, do you expect, I don't want to say expect Sundowns' dominance, but what do you think from the teams? You should expect any huge changes in as far as personnel, or it's a wait-and-see game now? Or the top structure, as you see it there, will remain the same as far as the big teams? It's the small ones that might have to tinkle a bit.
A lot will have to do with recruitment. Chiefs have already gone out on a massive recruitment. They've got Given Him Samango, they've got I think Mamelodi Sundowns is that, I'm not sure, I think he's gone to Pirates. But there's already been a gradual recruitment drive. I think it will go into overdrive. I think it also depends on which players that they choose to release. Are they releasing players who are what we'd call deadwood, or are they releasing players who've been critical to the operations but aren't quite on the same tactical and technical page with the coach?
Yeah, Mafa, quickly for you, what do you expect for the next season?
I'm expecting Arthur to do a Javi, have one season of saying, let me see, and the following season, not win the league like Javi, but to at least say, I've seen the players, now I know the players, and now I'm putting my foot down. Remember, this time has been battering moment. I hear you. But when you put your foot down, then you're in charge. They will do things your way and the way it should be done.
The one thing I think you're both agreeing on is that Sundowns will still dominate. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. Marks Go-Man-Go, former Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates legends, Khanyiso Tshwaku, SABC News, well, not news, rather, SABC commentator, but our in-house news analyst here for speaking to us, wrapping up the Premier Soccer League season 2022-2023. Take a quick break. Stay with us. Kate is back with me shortly.